The message arrived on a Tuesday. It came not as a friendly greeting or curious hello, but as a cold demand that made the blood of everyone in Lunar Base Alpha run cold. Commander Alan Wright stared at the alien text scrolling across his screen. The translation program worked quickly, converting the strange symbols into English. His face grew pale as he read. Humans of Earth. We are the Krell Imperium. Your solar system now belongs to us. Surrender within 7 days, or be destroyed. Resistance is pointless, you have no defense. Alan's hand trembled slightly as he pressed the emergency alert button. Sirens wailed throughout the base. Men and women in uniform rushed to their stations, though none knew yet what they were preparing for. Get me a direct line to the president, Alan ordered, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his chest. And someone wake up Dr. Harris. 600 miles away, deep under Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Olivia Harris was already awake. She had been expecting this day for 30 years. The small woman with silver-streaked black hair watched the alien message replay on her screen. Unlike those around her who reacted with shock and fear, Olivia's lips formed a thin smile. They think we have no defense, she whispered to herself. Perfect. The United Nations Security Council gathered in emergency session 2 hours later. Representatives from every nation watched the alien message with horror. Some wept openly. Others argued loudly about immediate surrender. A few spoke of launching every nuclear weapon at the alien ships now visible in Earth's telescopes. President William Carter entered the room, his face grave but determined. At 62, he had led America through economic crisis and civil unrest, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, cutting through the chaos. I've just spoken with Commander Wright at Lunar Base Alpha and Dr. Harris at Project Starfall. We have confirmed that this is indeed first contact with an alien civilization, and they have made their intentions clear. The Russian representative stood up. We must surrender. Their ships are already near the moon. One is larger than Manhattan. Surrender means slavery, the Nigerian representative countered. We should fight with everything we have. President Carter raised his hands for silence. Before we decide, you need to see something else. He nodded to his aide, who played new footage from the moon. Everyone watched in stunned silence as a bright beam of energy shot from one of the alien ships. It struck Tycho City, the moon's largest settlement with over 2 million residents. In seconds, the entire city vanished, leaving only a smoking crater. Gasps and cries filled the room. The Brazilian representative fainted. Others began shouting about immediate surrender. That was 30 minutes ago, President Carter said quietly. The Krell ambassador sent this message right after. The alien appeared on screen. It looked almost human, but with gray-blue skin, large black eyes, and no nose or ears. When it spoke, its thin lips barely moved. This demonstration shows our power. We can do the same to any city on Earth. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your surrender in 7 days will save lives. Resist, and your planet burns. After the message ended, silence filled the room. Mr. President, the Chinese representative said at last, what options do we actually have? Carter looked around the room. I spoke with Dr. Harris about Project Starfall. Most of you believe it's an orbital defense system. It's not. He took a deep breath. For 30 years since the Roswell recovery, we've been building something in secret, something the Krell know nothing about. Far below Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Olivia Harris stood before a massive steel door. Her security badge granted her access to a facility that officially didn't exist. Behind her stood 4 military generals, their faces showing a mix of hope and doubt. Dr. Harris, said General Peter Scott, you keep saying we're ready for this. How can we possibly be ready for alien invasion? Olivia placed her hand on a scanner. The massive door began to slide open. Because aliens have been visiting Earth for over a century, General, and they don't all get along. She smiled tightly. The Krell crashed one of their scout ships in New Mexico in 1947. You know it as the Roswell incident. We've been studying their technology ever since. The group entered a massive underground hangar. What they saw made even the hardened generals gasp. Spread out before them was a sleek black spacecraft larger than a nuclear submarine. It gleamed under the harsh lights, its surface covered with strange markings. Workers in white jumpsuits swarmed around it, making final adjustments. "This is the UES Defiance," Olivia said proudly. "United Earth ship, first of our fleet. We've built 50 just like it, hidden all over the world and in the asteroid belt." 50? General Scott whispered. "Against their thousands?" "Quality over quantity, General. Their scout ship taught us everything. We've spent 3 decades improving on their designs." She pointed to the ship's nose, where workers were loading a missile. "That single antimatter warhead can destroy their largest vessel, and they have no idea we have them." On the moon, Commander Alan Wright received new orders directly from the president. He looked out the window at the Krell ships hovering in the distance, their massive forms blocking the stars. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Natalie Ross, joined him. Her dark skin was ashen with grief and anger. "My sister was in Tycho City," she said quietly. Alan placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry, Natalie. Truly." "What are our orders, sir?" He handed her the tablet. Her eyes widened as she read. "Is this for real? We have a fleet?" Alan nodded. "Dr. Harris wants us on the next shuttle back to Earth. We're being assigned to the Defiance." Natalie looked again at the alien ships. "And these monsters think we're defenseless?" "That's our advantage," Alan said. "They expect us to beg for mercy. Instead, we're going to hit them so hard they'll regret ever coming to our solar system." 6 hours later, Alan and Natalie arrived at the secret hangar. Dr. Harris herself greeted them at the entrance. "Commander Wright, Lieutenant Commander Ross, welcome to Project Starfall." She led them toward the imposing ship. "I've read your files. You're exactly who we need." Alan stared up at the Defiance in wonder. "It's really space-worthy? Combat-ready?" "More than ready. We've been running simulations for years." She handed them each a tablet. "Meet your crew, the best pilots, engineers, and tactical officers Earth has to offer." Alan scrolled through the names. Navigation Officer Frank Martinez, Chief Engineer Samantha Powell, Tactical Officer Eric Johnson, Communications Specialist Daniel Garcia. "How long do we have to prepare?" Natalie asked. 5 days until the Krell. Expect our surrender," Dr. Harris replied. "The Defiance launches tomorrow." Behind them, the massive hangar doors began to open, revealing a vertical shaft stretching miles upward to the surface. "The Krell gave us 7 days because they're arrogant," Dr. Harris said, watching as technicians scurried to make final preparations. "They think we're primitive and scared. They have no idea what's coming." Commander Wright looked again at the mighty vessel that would soon be his to command. For the first time since the alien message arrived, he allowed himself to feel something. Other than dread, hope. "They thought Earth had no defense," he said quietly. "They're about to learn how wrong they are." The next morning, Commander Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance. Around him, crew members worked at their stations, their movements quick but precise. Through the large viewing window, he could see the enormous underground hangar. 50 identical ships waited in similar hangars around the world, all preparing to launch at the same time. "Status report," Alan said, settling into the captain's chair. It molded perfectly to his body. Another example of the advanced technology they had adapted from the crashed Krell ship. Lieutenant Commander Natalie Ross stood beside him, her dark eyes scanning a tablet. "All stations report ready, sir. Engineering says the Singularity Core is stable. Weapon systems are online." Alan nodded. "And the crew?" "Nervous, but ready. Most have been training for years, but always in simulators. This will be their first actual space deployment." The thought gave Alan pause. His own experience included orbital patrols and 2 years commanding Lunar Base Alpha, but nothing like what they were about to attempt. Navigation Officer Frank Martinez turned from his console. The young man's fingers moved constantly, as if playing an invisible piano. "Course plotted to Saturn, sir. We'll use its rings for cover during our shakedown cruise." "Good." Alan pressed a button on his chair. "All hands, this is Commander Wright. In 5 minutes, we launch for the first time. Our mission is simple: protect Earth. The enemy believes we have no defense. They're wrong. We are Earth's sword and shield. Right out." He released the button and took a deep breath. Natalie gave him a small smile. "Nice speech, sir." "Thanks. Let's hope I'm still saying inspiring things after we face the Krell." Dr. Olivia Harris's voice came through the ship's comm system. "Defiance, this is Control. You are cleared for launch. Opening outer doors now." Above them, massive steel doors slid apart, revealing a tunnel stretching up through miles of rock to the surface. Morning sunlight filtered down, a tiny bright spot far above. "Anti-gravity systems online," Chief Engineer Samantha Powell reported from her station. The blonde woman's fingers danced across her controls. "Inertial dampeners at full power." Alan gripped his chair arms. "Take us up, Mr. Martinez, easy does it." The ship hummed softly as it lifted off its supports. Unlike chemical rockets of the past, the Defiance rose silently, without flame or smoke. It ascended through the tunnel at increasing speed, emerging, a minute later, into the clear Colorado sky. "Stealth systems engaged," Tactical Officer Eric Johnson announced. The former Special Forces soldier monitored his screens with intense focus. "Radar absorbing skin active. Heat signature masked. Communications. Check with the other vessels," Alan ordered. Daniel Garcia, the communication specialist, worked his console. "Receiving acknowledgments from all ships, sir. UES Challenger reports successful launch from Ocean Base Pacific. UES Valiant is up from the Gobi facility. All others reporting in now." On screens around the bridge, indicators showed green as Earth's secret fleet rose into the morning sky from bases around the world. Some launched from underground bunkers like the Defiance. Others emerged from hidden ocean bases or desert facilities. 5 more rose from concealed hangars in the asteroid belt, where they had been constructed in secret. "Set course for Saturn," Alan ordered. "Maximum speed once we clear the moon's orbit." The Defiance accelerated smoothly, the blue sky outside, the viewports darkening to black as they left Earth's atmosphere. There was no sensation of movement thanks to the inertial dampeners, another technology reverse-engineered from the crashed Krell ship. "Sir," Natalie said quietly, "the Krell ships around the moon will see us." Alan smiled grimly. "No, they won't. Dr. Harris made sure of that." On another screen, they could see the massive Krell vessels orbiting the moon. The alien ships were impressive, some larger than small cities. Their designs were angular and threatening, covered with weapon ports. But the Defiance slipped past them undetected, its advanced stealth systems bending light around the hull. "They can't see what they don't know to look for," Alan explained. "The Krell think our most advanced ships are the old space shuttles and orbital platforms. They don't know to scan for singularity drive signatures or quantum stealth fields." As they passed the moon, All eyes turned to the smoking crater that had been Tycho City. The crew grew silent. Natalie's jaw tightened. "We'll make them pay," she whispered. 6 hours later, the UES Defiance and its sister ships gathered in Saturn's rings. The ice particles provided excellent cover from Krell sensors, allowing the human fleet to conduct their shakedown cruise in safety. "All systems are performing above expectations," Samantha reported from engineering. "The Singularity core is stable and providing more power than we predicted." Alan studied the tactical display. The 50 Earth ships were tiny compared to the Krell Armada, but their technology was equal or superior. It would have to be enough. "Begin combat drills," he ordered. "I want every crew member to know their job perfectly before we engage the enemy." For the next 3 days, the fleet practiced maneuvers and simulated battles. Ships darted between Saturn's rings, practiced coordinated attacks, and tested their weapons on small asteroids. The crews worked around the clock, sleeping in short shifts. On the 4th day, Communications Officer Garcia received an encrypted message from Earth. "Sir, Dr. Harris reports the Krell have issued another ultimatum. 3 days remain until their deadline." Alan called a meeting of all ship captains via secure holographic link. Their avatars appeared around the Defiance's conference table, each sitting as if physically present. "The Krell expect our surrender in 3 days," Alan told them. "Instead, we're going to launch Operation Thunderbolt. Captain Lisa Chen, is your team ready?" The captain of the UES Challenger nodded. Her hologram showed a determined woman in her 40s with short dark hair. "My team is ready, Commander. We've mastered the stealth approach. The Krell won't know we're there until it's too late." "Good." "Captain Ben Rogers, what about your group?" The rugged commander of the UES Valiant grinned. "Ready and eager, sir. My crews have been training for this moment their entire careers." Alan looked around at the gathered captains. "Earth is counting on us. The Krell have no idea what's coming. In 3 days, we launch our attack." After the meeting, Alan stood alone at the viewport watching Saturn's rings shimmer in the distant sunlight. Natalie joined him holding 2 cups of coffee. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked, offering him one. He took it with a nod of thanks. "Just thinking about what we're facing. 50 ships against over 1,000. Quality over quantity, like Dr. Harris said." Natalie sipped her coffee. "And we have surprise on our side. For the first few minutes, maybe. After that, it's skill and technology." Alan turned to face her. "Are you ready for this?" Her expression hardened. "After what they did to Tycho City? To my sister? I've never been more ready for anything in my life." Back on Earth, governments publicly prepared for defeat while secretly coordinating with the hidden fleet. Civilian populations were quietly moved away from major cities. Military forces took up defensive positions knowing they could do little against the Krell's orbital weaponry, but determined to fight until the end. Dr. Olivia Harris worked tirelessly in her underground command center, monitoring the fleet's preparations. President Carter joined her on the eve of battle. "Will it be enough?" he asked, looking at the displays showing the human fleet in formation near Saturn. Olivia's tired eyes reflected the screen's glow. "It has to be." As the final, hours before the Krell's deadline approached, the UES Defiance led Earth's fleet out of Saturn's rings. The ships accelerated to attack speed, their singularity drives creating small distortions in space-time that propelled them forward at incredible velocities. On the bridge, Commander Wright gave the order every captain had been waiting for. "All ships, this is Defiance Actual. Commence Operation Thunderbolt. I say again, commence Operation Thunderbolt. Good hunting." The fleet split into its assigned groups and vanished into the darkness of space, racing toward their confrontation with the Krell. Earth's hidden defense was about to reveal itself to an enemy who thought they faced no resistance at all. As the Defiance accelerated toward Mars, where they would launch their surprise attack. Alan thought of all the lives depending on them. He touched the small photo of his wife and son tucked inside his uniform pocket. "For Earth," he whispered. The Krell invasion fleet arrived exactly when they promised. Over 1,200 alien vessels appeared near the moon, moving into formation like a swarm of metal insects. From Earth, they looked like new stars arranged in perfect lines and circles. People on Earth watched the sky with fear. Many prayed, some rioted, others simply spent time with loved ones believing these might be their final days. Admiral Vorax of the Krell Imperium stood on the bridge of his massive command ship. His gray-blue skin looked almost luminous under the soft lights. He had conquered 17 worlds across 3 star systems, and Earth would be the 18th. "Send the final message," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell the humans their time is up." The demand went out. Earth had 24 hours to surrender or face planetary bombardment. Missiles would target major cities first, then military installations. Resistance would only increase the suffering. Behind the red planet Mars, Commander, Alan Wright of the UES Defiance received word that the Krell ultimatum had arrived. Earth's deadline was now 1 day away. "It's time," he told his crew. "Begin Phase 1 of Operation Thunderbolt." 5 smaller human vessels broke from the main fleet. These scout ships were specially designed for stealth operations. Their captains had been chosen for both skill and daring. "Scout Fleet, this is..." "Commander Wright, you know your mission. Get in, deploy your packages, and get out. Do not engage directly." "Understood, Defiance," came the reply from the lead scout ship. "We're on our way." The 5 ships activated their singularity drives, creating controlled space-time distortions that propelled them toward the Krell Armada. They traveled in complete stealth mode, undetectable by conventional sensors. On the bridge of the Defiance, the crew watched on monitors as the scout ships approached their targets. "They're almost in position," Natalie said, her voice tense. Alan nodded. "Let's hope the Krell are as overconfident as we think they are." The scout ships slipped through the Krell formation like ghosts. Each vessel carried 30 quantum mines, advanced weapons that had never been used in combat before. The mine teams worked quickly, releasing their deadly cargo among the largest Krell warships. For 20 minutes, the scouts moved through the enemy fleet, completely undetected. Then, just as the last mines were being deployed, something went wrong. "Defiance, this is Scout 3, came a panicked voice over the comm. "They've detected us somehow. Taking fire." On the screens, they watched as a Krell cruiser fired energy beams at one of the scout ships. The small vessel dodged desperately but took damage to its rear section. "Get out of there," Alan ordered. "All scouts, abort and return to base." 4 of the 5 scout ships escaped, jumping away before the Krell could target them. The damaged Scout 3 wasn't so lucky. A second energy beam sliced through its hull, causing it to explode in a flash of light. Admiral Vorax was confused by the sudden appearance of a human ship among his fleet. It was far more advanced than anything their intelligence had reported. "What was that vessel?" he demanded. "And what was it doing here?" His tactical officer had no answers. Sensors showed nothing unusual except the debris from the destroyed ship. "It may have been attempting to plant explosives, Admiral," the officer suggested. Vorax laughed. "One tiny ship? Against our fleet? The humans are desperate indeed." Then, the first quantum mine detonated. The explosion was unlike anything the Krell had seen before. It didn't create fire or shrapnel. Instead, it warped space itself in a bubble around one of their largest battleships. The massive vessel seemed to stretch and twist before imploding completely. Before Vorax could react, the second mine went off, then the third. Soon, explosions rippled throughout his formation as all 30 quantum mines activated in sequence. The effect was devastating. Each mine created a localized gravity distortion that crushed anything within its radius. 300 Krell ships were destroyed in less than 5 minutes. The night sky above Earth lit up with brief, bright flashes as the mighty vessels were torn apart. "What is happening?" Vorax shouted as his ship rocked from a nearby detonation. "How is this possible?" On the Defiance, the bridge crew watched, in grim satisfaction as their plan succeeded. "All mines successfully detonated," Eric Johnson reported from the tactical station. "Enemy fleet reduced by approximately 25%. Alan nodded. "Now they know we can hurt them. Signal the fleet. Begin Phase 2. The main human fleet accelerated toward the moon, their singularity drives pushing them to speeds that would have been impossible just decades before. The UES Defiance led the charge, with the other 45 ships following in attack formation. Admiral Vorax was still trying to understand what had happened when his sensors detected multiple objects approaching at high speed. "More human ships," his tactical officer reported, voice filled with disbelief. 50 of them heavily armed. "Impossible," Vorax said. "Their technology is primitive. They have no fleet." "The evidence suggests otherwise, Admiral," his second-in-command said quietly. Vorax growled in anger. "Scan those vessels. I want to know everything about them." The scan revealed the truth. The human ships were powered by singularity drives, similar to Krell technology but more refined. Their hulls were reinforced with materials unknown to Krell science, and their weapon systems appeared to be advanced beyond anything the Krell had encountered before. "How did they get this technology?" Vorax demanded. But there was no time for answers. The human fleet opened fire. From the Defiance, Alan gave the order. "All ships, target the enemy's central formation. Fire antimatter missiles and graviton beams." The human vessels launched their primary weapons. Antimatter missiles streaked toward the Krell ships, each one containing a tiny amount of antimatter held in a magnetic bottle. When they struck their targets, matter and antimatter annihilated each other, releasing enormous energy. At the same time, graviton beam emitters fired concentrated streams of gravitational particles that sliced through Krell armor like knives, through paper. The Krell responded with their own weapons, plasma cannons and energy beams that lit up space with blue-green light. Several human ships took hits, their shields flaring as they absorbed the energy. "Shields holding at 80%, Samantha reported as the Defiance shook from a direct hit. Alan studied the tactical display. "Bring us around for another pass. Target that group of cruisers near the flagship." The battle raged around Mars, human and Krell ships dancing in a deadly ballet. Despite being outnumbered, the Earth vessels had several advantages: surprise, superior maneuverability, and weapons the Krell had never encountered before. The UES Challenger, under Captain Lisa Chen, led a daring attack on a group of Krell destroyers, her ship weaving between enemy vessels while firing precisely aimed graviton beams. 4 enemy ships were cut in half before they could respond. The UES Valiant, commanded by Captain Ben Rogers, took heavy damage but managed to destroy a Krell dreadnought with a close-range barrage of antimatter missiles. Hour by hour, the battle turned in humanity's favor. 200 more Krell ships were destroyed while Earth lost only 7 vessels. Admiral Vorax watched with growing horror as his mighty fleet was decimated by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "Pull back to regroup." The remaining Krell ships withdrew to the dark side of the moon, using Earth's satellite as a shield while they assessed the situation. On the Defiance, there was no celebration despite their victory. The crew knew this was only the first round of what would be a long and difficult fight. "They're regrouping," Natalie said, studying the sensor readings. "Approximately 700 enemy ships remaining." Alan nodded grimly. "And we still have 43. The odds are better, but still not good. He turned to Daniel. Contact Earth. Tell Dr. Harris we've won the first engagement but need to withdraw to Jupiter to regroup and repair. As the Earth fleet pulled back toward the giant planet, Alan looked at the tired faces of his crew. They had fought well and won an important victory. The Krell now knew that Earth was not defenseless after all, but he also knew that Admiral Vorax would not give up so easily. The Krell would adapt their tactics, analyze Earth's technology, and come back stronger. The real test was still to come. Admiral Vorax paced on the bridge of his command ship. The defeat near Mars had been humiliating. 3 days had passed since the humans had revealed their secret fleet and destroyed 500 of his vessels. His officers watched him nervously as he considered his next move. They are hiding near Jupiter, his second-in-command reported. Our long-range scans show they are repairing their ships. Vorax stopped pacing and stared at the tactical display. His remaining 700 ships were still more than enough to crush the humans, but he had underestimated them once. He would not make that mistake again. Divide the fleet, he ordered. 3 battle groups. The first will target Earth directly. The second will destroy their mining operations in the asteroid belt. The third will hunt down their fleet near Jupiter. He smiled coldly. Let us see how they respond when forced to defend on multiple fronts. The Krell fleet split as ordered. 300 ships headed toward Earth, 200 toward the asteroid belt, and 200 began the long journey to Jupiter. In the shadow of the gas giant, Commander Alan Wright received the news from Earth. The Defiance and the other human ships had spent 3 days making repairs and reviewing battle tactics. The Krell are on the move, Alan told his assembled officers in the ship's briefing room. They've split their forces. He activated a holographic display showing the 3 Krell battle groups and their destinations. A smart move, Natalie admitted. They're forcing us to divide our strength. Alan nodded. Dr. Harris and President Carter have a plan. We'll split our fleet as well. I'll lead 10 ships to intercept the Earthbound Krell. Captain Chen will take 10 ships to protect the asteroid belt. Captain Rogers will command the largest group, 20 ships, to set a trap near Europa. The officers studied the plan. We'll be heavily outnumbered in all 3 locations, Eric Johnson pointed out. Yes, Alan agreed, but we still have the advantage of superior technology and better knowledge of our own solar system. Use it. As the meeting ended, Samantha Powell, the chief engineer, approached Alan privately. Commander, that experimental weapon we discussed, it's ready for testing. Alan looked at her with interest. The gravity lance? She nodded. It creates a temporary controlled black hole. The math suggests it could swallow 3 or 4 Krell ships at once if positioned correctly. And the power requirements? Enormous. We'd need to divert energy from shields and engines. It would leave us vulnerable for about 30 seconds. Alan considered this. Have it ready, but only as a last resort. 6 hours later, the human fleet separated into its 3 battle groups. The UES Defiance led its 10 ships toward Earth, racing to intercept the approaching Krell force. Captain Lisa Chen's group headed for the asteroid belt. Captain Ben Rogers' ships moved into position around Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Alan stood on the bridge of the Defiance as they approached Earth orbit. The Krell ships were already visible, their massive forms blocking out the stars. They've detected us, Daniel reported from communications. They're moving to engage. All ships, battle formation, Alan ordered. Remember your training. Hit and run. Don't stay in one place long enough for them to target you. The 10 human ships spread out, their engines flaring as they accelerated toward the enemy. The Krell responded by launching fighters, small, one-person, craft that swarmed like angry bees. Intercept those fighters, Alan ordered. Use the point defense systems. The Defiance's automated defense turrets activated, firing rapid pulses of energy that destroyed dozens of Krell fighters. The other human ships did the same, creating a protective screen around them. But the main Krell battleships were closing in, their weapons powering up. 300 against 10 were not good odds, even with superior technology. Evasive maneuvers, Alan ordered as the first energy beams lanced out from the Krell vessels. The Defiance rolled and twisted, avoiding most of the fire, but one beam struck its shields, causing the ship to shudder. Shields at 70%, Samantha reported from engineering. Alan watched as his other ships engaged the enemy. The UES Liberty was taking heavy fire, its shields failing. 2 other vessels had already suffered damage to their engines. "This isn't working," Natalie said quietly. "There are too many of them." Alan reluctantly came to the same conclusion. "Samantha, how's that gravity lance looking?" "Ready, sir, but remember, using it will leave us vulnerable." "I understand." Alan made his decision. "All ships, new formation. Create a perimeter around the Defiance. We're going to try something." The human vessels regrouped, forming a protective circle around the flagship. The Krell, seeing this as a defensive posture, gathered their largest ships for an all-out assault. "Perfect," Alan said, watching 3 Krell dreadnoughts move close together. "Target the gravity lance at coordinates 227 by 184, right between those 3 big ships." "Targeting," Eric confirmed. "Ready to fire." "Diverting power now," Samantha said. "Shields dropping to 20%. Engines at minimal power." Alan took a deep breath. Fire. A strange, pulsing beam of purple-black energy shot from the Defiance's main weapon port. It struck a point in empty space between the 3 Krell dreadnoughts. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to fold inward. A tiny black dot appeared, rapidly expanding to the size of a small car. The effect on the nearby Krell ships was immediate and catastrophic. They were pulled toward the miniature black hole, their hulls groaning and twisting as they were stretched by the immense gravitational forces. "It's working," Natalie whispered in awe. The 3 massive Krell vessels, each larger than a small city, were drawn inexorably toward the gravity well. They collided with each other, their hulls crumpling before they were compressed into the growing black hole. From Earth's surface, people watched in amazement as what looked like 3 bright stars suddenly moved together and vanished. The black hole continued to grow, pulling in 7 more Krell ships before it reached its designed limit and collapsed in on itself, disappearing in a flash of exotic radiation. 10 ships with 1 shot, Eric reported, his voice filled with wonder. But the Defiance was now vulnerable, its shields weakened and engines at low power. The remaining Krell vessels, though shocked by what they had witnessed, quickly regrouped to attack. "Shields back online in 20 seconds, Samantha called out. "We may not have 20 seconds, Alan said grimly as he watched the Krell ships closing in. Just then, new contacts appeared on their sensors. "Sir," Daniel said excitedly, "it's the asteroid belt group. Captain Chen must have dealt with her targets and come to help." The UES Challenger led 9 ships in a flanking attack on the Krell forces, catching them by surprise. Their graviton beams sliced through the enemy vessels while their antimatter missiles created a series of brilliant explosions. The tide of battle had turned once again. As the Defiance's systems came back online, Alan ordered a counterattack. The combined human forces fought with renewed energy, driving the disorganized Krell back from Earth. In the asteroid belt, Captain Chen's quick thinking had allowed her to use the dense field to set traps for the Krell. Her ships had lured the enemy into narrow passages between large asteroids then detonated hidden mines that sent rock and metal fragments tearing through the Krell vessels. The battle had ended quickly, allowing her to bring her forces to Earth's defense. Meanwhile, near Europa, Captain Rogers implemented the most daring plan of all. His 20 ships had hidden beneath the icy surface of the moon, using the liquid ocean beneath to mask their presence. When the Krell hunting party arrived and began scanning the Jovian system, the human vessels erupted from the ice in a coordinated attack. The battle near Europa was fierce. The UES Valiant took critical damage to its singularity core, forcing Captain Rogers to make a terrible choice. Rather than let his crippled ship be captured, he ordered the crew to evacuate to other vessels. Then he piloted the damaged Valiant directly into the Krell flagship, destroying both ships in a massive explosion that disrupted the enemy's command and control. By the end of the day, the Krell fleet had been reduced to less than 300 ships. Admiral Vorax, watching his forces being decimated across the solar system, made the hardest decision of his career. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, disengage and prepare to leave this system." The remaining Krell vessels began pulling back, gathering into a single group at the edge of the solar system. They had never expected such resistance from a supposedly primitive world. On the Defiance, the crew watched the enemy withdrawal with exhausted relief. "We did it," Natalie said, hardly believing their victory. Alan shook his head. "Not yet. They're sending a distress signal back to their homeworld. If they escape, they'll return with an even larger force." He looked at his tired crew. They had fought bravely and achieved the impossible, but the final test still lay ahead. "Set course to intercept the retreating Krell," he ordered. "We can't let them escape." The UES Defiance led a fleet of 20 Earth ships in pursuit of the retreating Krell. The other human vessels stayed behind to protect Earth and help the damaged ships. Commander Alan Wright knew this final battle would decide humanity's fate. "Status. Report," Alan ordered as they approached the edge of the solar system. "The Krell have consolidated their remaining ships around Admiral Vorax's command vessel," Natalie reported. 278 enemy ships in defensive formation. "And our fleet?" 21 ships operational, sir. Most running low on antimatter munitions. Alan studied the tactical display. Even with their technological edge, attacking the massed Krell fleet would be difficult. But they had no choice. If even one Krell ship escaped to warn their homeworld, Earth would face an even larger invasion force. "Sir," Daniel called from communications. "Message from Dr. Harris." Alan activated the secure channel. Dr. Olivia Harris's tired face appeared on screen. "Commander, our monitoring stations have detected a transmission from the Krell fleet. They're sending a distress signal toward their home system." Alan's heart sank. "How long before it reaches them?" "It's using some form of quantum entanglement. If they maintain the signal for another 10 minutes, it will reach the Krell homeworld. You must stop them, Commander, whatever it takes." "Understood." Alan turned to his crew. "We have 10 minutes to silence that transmission. Prepare for direct assault." The crew looked at each other nervously. A frontal attack against the consolidated Krell force was almost suicide. "Sir," Samantha said from engineering, "I have an idea. The singularity core. What about it? If we overload it in a controlled manner, we could create an expanding gravity, well, much larger than what the gravity lance produces. It would pull in everything within 1,000 kilometers. Including us," Alan said quietly. Samantha nodded. "Yes. But if someone stayed behind to pilot the Defiance into the center of the Krell formation, while the rest of the crew evacuated." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. "I'll do it," Alan said after a moment. "The rest of you will transfer to the other ships." Natalie stepped forward. "Sir, with respect, that's not acceptable. We need you to command the fleet." "Then who?" Alan asked. The crew looked at each other. Before anyone could volunteer, the ship rocked violently from a direct hit. "Krell fighters," Eric shouted from tactical. "They've spotted us and launched an attack wing." "All ships, defensive pattern," Alan ordered. "Return fire." The human fleet accelerated toward the waiting Krell armada, shooting down fighters as they approached. The Defiance shuddered as another energy beam struck its shields. "Shields at 40%, Samantha reported. More Krell ships broke from the main formation to engage the humans. Energy beams and plasma bolts crisscrossed the void of space. 2 human vessels exploded under concentrated fire. "We can't go on like this," Alan muttered. Then he made his decision. "Lieutenant Commander Ross, you have command of the fleet. I'm taking the Defiance in." "Sir," Natalie began to protest. "That's an order. Get everyone to the escape pods and transfer to the other ships. What about you?" Alan looked at her steadily. "I'll pilot the Defiance into the heart of their fleet and activate the singularity overload. It's the only way to ensure we stop that transmission." For a moment, Natalie looked like she might argue. Then she straightened and saluted. "It's been an honor, sir." "Likewise, now go." As the evacuation began, Alan contacted the other ship captains. "This is Commander Wright. Lieutenant Commander Ross will now lead the fleet. Provide cover for the Defiance and pick up our escape pods. I'm going to take out their command ship and stop the transmission." The escape pods launched from the Defiance, small crafts carrying the crew to safety. The other human ships moved to protect them, engaging the Krell vessels that tried to intercept. Alone on the bridge, Alan plotted a direct course toward the center of the Krell formation. The Defiance accelerated, its damaged shields flickering as it took more hits. "Samantha," he said over the comm to the chief engineer, now safely on another ship. "Talk me through the core overload." She explained the procedure, her voice steady, despite the emotion he could hear beneath it. Alan followed her instructions, entering commands that would cause the Singularity Core to collapse in a precisely controlled way. The Defiance plunged deeper into the Krell formation, firing its remaining weapons to clear a path. The enemy seemed to realize what was happening. Their fire intensified, pounding the human ship from all directions. "Core overload sequence initiated," Alan reported. 2 minutes to critical mass. He looked at the family photo he had placed. On the console beside him, his wife and son smiled back from the image. "For Earth," he whispered. The Defiance's engines roared as Alan directed it toward Admiral Vorax's command ship, a massive vessel at the center of the Krell formation. Smaller enemy ships moved to block his path, but Alan skillfully navigated around them or through them, leaving wreckage in his wake. On the Krell command ship, Admiral Vorax watched in growing alarm as the lone human vessel approached. "Destroy that ship," he ordered. "All weapons fire." But the Defiance would not be stopped. Its hull glowed red from multiple hits. Its shields failed completely, but still it came on. Alan saw the massive form of the Krell flagship filling his viewport. The Singularity Core behind him hummed with growing intensity as the overload approached. "Critical mass. 30 seconds, he reported to the fleet. "Get clear all ships maximum distance." With his last act, he activated the ship's final burst of speed. The Defiance slammed into the side of Vorax's command ship, crashing through layers of alien armor to embed itself deep within the larger vessel. Alan closed his eyes as the Singularity Core reached critical mass. The explosion was unlike anything seen before in the solar system. The Defiance's Singularity Core collapsed completely, creating a rapidly expanding sphere of distorted space-time. The Krell command ship was the first to be consumed, crushed to nothing as the gravity well grew. Their enemy vessels tried to escape, but they were too close, too tightly packed in their defensive formation. Ship after ship was pulled in, stretched and crushed by the overwhelming gravitational forces. From a safe distance, the human fleet watched in awe as what looked like a small black sun formed at the center of the Krell formation. Ships were pulled into it like moths to a flame, disappearing in flashes of light as their hulls were compressed beyond the limits of matter. The distortion grew larger, consuming more of the Krell fleet. Then, just as it threatened to expand beyond control, it reached its physical limits and collapsed in on itself. The resulting energy release sent a shockwave through space that rocked the watching human vessels. When the sensors cleared, not a single Krell ship remained. Where nearly 300 alien vessels had been, there was now only empty space, and the transmission to the Krell homeworld had been cut off. 3 days later, a memorial service was held on Earth for Commander Alan Wright and all those who had given their lives in the defense of their planet. People around the world stood in silence, honoring the heroes who had saved humanity from extinction. In the underground facility beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Olivia Harris met with President Carter. Despite the victory, her face was solemn. The Krell will eventually realize what happened to their invasion fleet, she said. They'll send another larger force. How long do we have? The president asked. Perhaps a year, maybe less. Carter nodded thoughtfully. Then we'll use that time to prepare. The world is united as never before. He gestured to the display showing construction of new ships already underway. We'll be ready for them, Doctor. Harris walked to another screen, this one showing data recovered from a captured Krell database. There's something else you should see, Mr. President. The Krell have conquered many worlds, but there are other civilizations out there, some also, fighting against the Imperium, potential allies. Yes, I believe our next step should be to reach out to them. 1 month later, the UES Wright, named in honor of the fallen commander, launched from Earth. It was larger and more advanced than the Defiance had been, incorporating lessons learned during the battle. Lieutenant Commander Natalie Ross, now Captain. Ross stood on its bridge looking out at the stars that had once seemed so distant and peaceful, but which humanity now knew held both dangers and wonders. Course laid in, Captain, Navigation Officer Martinez reported. Ready to depart. Natalie nodded. Take us out, Mr. Martinez, we have allies to find. As the massive ship accelerated away from Earth, its singularity drive creating a gentle ripple in the fabric of space-time, Natalie thought of Alan Wright and his sacrifice. Because of him and the others who had fallen, humanity had not only survived but would now venture out among the stars not as conquerors but as liberators. The Krell had thought Earth had no defense. They had been wrong, and now the entire galaxy would learn just how wrong they had been.